iPads and other devices are called tablets because they belong on tables. They are tested 20 centimeters away from that big guy that I showed you before. 20 centimeters away. They are not approved to be held in the laps of little children, although millions of kids are having them now in schools because the people involved in educational technology and those involved in public health research are not talking to one another. Because if they were, they would understand that you're giving children a two-way microwave radiating device, and if you must give them such a device for learning purposes, put it on airplane mode so that it's not sending and receiving signals as it does otherwise.
In a school setting, the wireless access point connects laptops and tablets to the school's wired computer network, which in turn is usually connected to the internet. A Wi-Fi access point is always on and broadcasts its unique ID continually so that new devices can find it. In our Wi-Fi setup, one email takes around 1/40th of a second to transfer wirelessly from the computer to the access point. A typical 3-minute video clip is about 550 times bigger than an email. So, using the Wi-Fi, it takes around 12 seconds to download this 3-minute video. Now let's look at this in a classroom setting. Here is a class of 20 students, all with wireless devices. If 20 students in the class all downloaded a 3-minute video at the same time, it would take 4 minutes. 4 minutes of the access point at full constant power, or the equivalent of sending 10,000 emails. Now keep in mind, this is just one class downloading one 3-minute video. How about all the other classrooms in the school building? In Australian schools, the future projection is to make all students carry notebooks or tablets and to have more resources online via the national curriculum. That's videos, tutorials, books and online quizzes. You can imagine that at the start of each lesson, the entire school will be accessing the network wirelessly to download the resources for that lesson. During these times, the power density of the Wi-Fi will be at its maximum throughout the entire school.
The SAR value of the iPad on Wi-Fi is higher than most phones, and the higher the value, the more RFEM energy is absorbed by the human body. In a real-life test, an iPhone and an iPad were measured using an RF EMR meter. First, the iPhone. A call was put through, and the measurement was taken on talk mode. The meter peaked at 19 with a continuous signal for the duration of the call. Let's compare this to an iPad using Wi-Fi. In this video, the Wi-Fi is turned on, but it's not downloading anything or surfing the internet. Even so, the iPad peaks at 70, which is over 3 times higher than the iPhone on talk mode. This signal is intermittent and spikes every few seconds for as long as the Wi-Fi is on. So how much time do we spend using these Wi-Fi enabled tablets? It's likely to be a lot longer than the time spent talking on the phone. If you're playing games or surfing the internet, it could possibly be for hours every day. Let's take the iPad apart.
What should be happening is you should be measuring the amount of radiation in the room and seeing if it is safe for children. But I can tell you, without even looking, it isn't. And I'll tell you why. Because unlike medication, where there is a safe level for children, they have an adult dose and a child's dose, there is no safety level for microwave radiation for children. Not one. And it is my job as scientific advisor, I read, I translate papers from all around the world. And I have never, ever, no matter which country I've lectured in, which paper I've read, I have never, ever seen a single scientist brave enough to produce a safety level of microwave radiation for a child. There isn't one that exists. And I will tell you why. Because children do not have our immune systems. They're not developed. Their bones are soft. The microwaves penetrate very easily. Inside their bones they are producing stem cells which make their immune systems and all other parts of their body. Their skulls are thin. there is a whole myriad of things which can go wrong, and children absorb more radiation than adults because they are smaller, they are nearer the wavelength, so they act as aerials. There is not a single safety level of microwaves for children, not one.
Alalana School of Public Health. I specialise in cancer epidemiology. I have done research on both ionising and non-ionising radiation and have found effects on cancer from both forms. I have also served on a number of committees, working groups of the International Agency for Research on Cancer in Lyon. I was the first representative on the Scientific Council of that agency of Canada. I chaired the Scientific Council, and very recently I spent 3 months as a senior scientist there, and part of my duties were to review the documentation provided that enabled the working group to determine that radio frequency fields were a 2B carcinogen. Now, what that essentially means is that it's regarded as possible. It doesn't mean there's no evidence. That would be inadequate evidence. That would be category 3. It doesn't mean sufficient. That would be category 1, such as asbestos. However, that review was done in 2011. And since then, there have been a number of studies reported. And fairly recently, I and some colleagues in the United States and Israel published a paper in which we set forward the reasons for our view that the proper designation now, if a working group were to meet, would be category 2A, that is, moving it nearer to the sufficient, making it a probable human carcinogen.
My name is David Carpenter. I'm a public health physician who was educated at Harvard Medical School. The question today is whether it's wise to have Wi-Fi in schools. My answer is a clear no, it is not wise. Let me tell you why. There is clear evidence that children that live near powerful AM radio transmission towers use the same kind of microwave irradiation that is characteristic of Wi-Fi in schools. Those children have an elevated risk of developing leukemia. Children that use cell phones extensively have elevated risks of developing brain cancer. And the cell phones use the same kind of radiation. Now, a wired computer lab in a school will generate no radio frequency radiation. Now, a wired lab may be a little more expensive to install initially, may be a little less flexible in the school, but it will not subject your child to elevated radio frequency radiation. Do we have all of the answers about how dangerous Wi-Fi is? No. But do we have enough evidence to believe that it's going to increase the risk of leukemia? Yes, we do. And parents need to know the information that we have at hand. They need to take steps to protect their children, to educate their colleagues, the people in the PTA, to educate their school officials, the superintendents, the teachers, to educate their elected representatives and political authorities. But there are simple steps that can be taken to protect children from Wi-Fi and from radio frequency radiation without interfering with their learning ability in the school.